Podcasting from Portland East to Portland West, from Big Pine Key to Pacific Beach, and from San Juan to Guam, this is All Across America. Joey Cummings, is honored to have you on All Across America.
Hey, Mark. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for reaching out.
Yes. I'm glad you got the letter.
Yeah. How many of those have you sent out?
I send out a lot, and I get a really great response. I always say when everybody else is zigging, you got to be zagging. So it's too easy to send an email today or connect with somebody on social media. So I like to do it the old-fashioned way, and I think it stands out. So
don't stop, be you. It's working.
I appreciate it. Well, when you responded by email, you signed off as Pago Joey Cummings. Tell me about that.
Paunga Joey Cummings. Paunga is a chiefly title. I've been in American Samoa for 21 years, and in the process, I married a very lovely Samoan lady. And
wonderful.
You know how it goes. It doesn't matter what clan, region, or ethnicity or place you're from. When you marry a lady, you marry the family.
That's right.
And in Samoa, there's this wonderful traditions of Matai titles. Matai would be like chiefly titles. And I think of it maybe a little bit like not like the military, but how there's different levels of titles. You have your lower chiefs and your middle chiefs and your high chiefs. And I have a little bitty, I have a chiefly title called Paunga. That is I am a talking chief for the family.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which
makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Now, my understanding of it, and forgive any mispronunciations or misnomers, or just if I get it wrong, that is a go-between between the family and the government. Is that correct?
The people that speak for the families can often talking between families. Sometimes it will be whenever we're in a more formal or a public setting, and a group or a tribe needs to say something for the family.
All right. Okay. And tell me the family unit again. I'm going to mispronounce that. Aiga.
Ainga.
Ainga. Okay.
Yeah.
Close. Close.
Samoan has this really lovely and mysterious invisible N thing. So anytime you have a G in Samoan, pretend like there's an N right before it. So IAGA instead of Aiga would be Ainga. Yeah.
Ainga. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Or like the capital, Pongo. Whenever you look at it, it looks like Pago, but it's Pongo.
Pongo. So it's not Pago. It's Pongo. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think of it like the word among.
Okay.
The NG at the end of among.
Okay. And you've said that you've been in American Samoa for 21 years. Forgive me, you look a couple years older than 21 years. So what brought you there? Where'd you grow up?
I am a born Mississippi boy in Pittsburgh, Mississippi, and I was raised in my first years in Rolling Fork, Mississippi, the same place where Muddy Waters was born.
Okay.
I'm a blues lover.
Wow. Okay.
I am a child of the Mississippi Delta. I am through and through a Mississippi boy. But when I was 27 or 26, I moved to American Samoa for radio, and to take up a 1 year, maybe a 2 year calling to go help out a radio station, and it just kind of stuck.
You know how it goes, right?
Yeah. But I do get back to Mississippi fairly often. I like to go back, see my family, go sit in with the blues musicians and play my harmonica and have fun.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, it's funny because I just had I don't know if you know Mr. Sip from Macomb, Mississippi was on the show 2 or 3 episodes ago, and so he's from the southern part of the state. Not exactly known for its blues culture in that portion of the state, but I've spent a lot of time in Clarksdale, and so been to the and over the river in Helena for the King Biscuit Blues Festival. So it's
Played
amazing.
it many times.
Oh man, that's
Yeah, yeah.
it's something special, it really is. I've even been to Po Monkey's Lounge when it was still in business,
I
so
played
that
Po
was.
Monkeys more than once too. Yeah, I'm a alumna of Delta State University in Cleveland, next to
Oh
Po
wow.
Monkeys. Yeah,
Okay, that is what, the Fighting Okra?
yeah, Fighting Okra. That's it.
I think that's got to be one of the best college mascots in all of the United States. Not enough people know about it. They know
Yeah.
the Santa Cruz banana slugs, but they don't know the Delta State Fighting Okra.
Mhm. D2 legends.
Well, speaking of blues and music, you guys, folks, have a lot of stations out there. Am I right? You've got 4 radio stations. You've got 2 TV stations. Tell me about that.
Yeah, radio in American Samoa is really fun and it's unique because it's relevant everywhere, but it's
Yeah.
super relevant in American Samoa because I based on my own observations over years, I think that American Samoa is a place that television skipped. Yes, we do have some television operations that we do, but they're really ancillary to the radio business. Um, the only television station in American Samoa that's been there for any length of time is government run, and
Ooh,
it's the
fun.
only television station that was ever licensed by the Department of Education, not the FCC. And it happened around mid '60s as an early experiment in distance learning. There weren't enough teachers to go around, and they carved off a top of a mountain and erected a couple of television towers, started 4 television stations, and they had people teaching and proctors in the classrooms so
Oh,
that
wow.
each grade would know which television channel to tune to at which time to get their lessons. And
There you go.
across the island, and
Wow.
over time it became less about that, and the Samoans in California and Hawaii with their Betamax and their newfangled
Yeah.
starting to send recordings from television of Price is Right and wrestling and Days of Our Lives. Right,
Oh
these
boy.
things are deeply ingrained in like the special place in pop culture. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, if you ever really want to get a kick out of something old school, go to YouTube and check out Price is Right Samoans. And
Wow.
there are compilations of every time a Samoan has managed to get on stage on The Price is Right. And every time Bob Barker runs from these ladies because they come running up the stairs and then Bob Barker, and they give him a big old bear hug, and he's about as big around as my finger. They
Yeah, it was.
crush the life out of him. It's hilarious.
I
Yeah.
have to say, I was getting my tires changed, and I was at a town fair tire, and they had Prices Right on it. It was the middle of the day, and there was Bob Barker, and it was classic. I like Drew Carey, but Bob Barker is something special. That was, sick days home from school in 5th grade, watching the Prices Right.
It's it. So, but because we're watching this, and I say we, I'm talking about Samoans into the past. We were watching this, and there was no access to. You were just watching what's happening in the U.S. They weren't programming anything specially for Samoans, and there was
Mhm.
certainly no advertising. As a result, radio really remained super important in the territory for current events, local news, even you know, it wasn't that long ago, maybe 30 years ago, that they were still recording news reports over the telephone onto tape and
Wow.
then playing them back.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, uh, 93 KHJ, the flagship station of the group that I work with, is just celebrating its 25th anniversary. And it was only the second FM station on the whole island. Now we have like 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There are four commercial stations. I operate three of those, and one of which has an HD2 and a translator. So that's like four commercial signals to program. And then
Okay.
there's another family that has a commercial FM. And so we program a hit music station, which is a 93 KHJ. We have a
Nice.
Samoan music channel that
V103.
yeah, V103 features a lot of local news every hour, up to 5 minutes long in English and
Mhm.
Samoan and from the region, and lots of sports. And then we have an oldies station and a hip hop station, which is the newest one, and it's still finding its way. But
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
And right now you're in Maui opening up some new stations. Tell us about that.
yeah, Maui just sort of came out of nowhere about 6 years ago. We were friends with all of the broadcasters in the region, Oceania as much as we can be, and the fellow on Maui had a small group of six stations. About 6 years ago, a broker reached out and said, "Hey, John wants to sell his stations. He's getting on in years, and he wants to
Mhm.
do it." And we watched him, and we even introduced him around because the price he was asking, it wasn't for us.
Okay.
But
Yeah, yeah.
over the years, and then a pandemic, and then some other things, and some negotiations, and we found a much more favorable arrangement.
I
And
see.
in December, we took the stations, uh, turned all of those signals, moved them around a bit, turned one of them HD, and now we're operating eight stations. So six became
Wow.
eight. The building on 1900 Main, where the stations were located for like 30 years, the rent was too high for us to really want to assume that. So we moved
Yeah.
everything to a new office suite in Kahului. And what I've been doing for the past month is coming back and forth from American Samoa, moving all of everything out of that old building, 30 years of stuff from six radio stations where they never wanted to throw anything away, and just history and newspaper clippings and
Right.
coffee mugs and that one
I
last
know, yeah.
bumper
Radio
stickers
stations
from
are yeah.
92. And
Yeah.
it was like yeah, and it was a lot to deal
Yeah.
with. We filled an entire 33 cubic yard dumpster with the stuff that we didn't move out, and
Wow.
and we have a storage unit, and yeah, but it's been so much fun um, to work with the staff, most of which continue to work with the new station,
That's
and
great.
to use this opportunity to move out of the old place and start anew.
Very nice. Yeah, radio stations are not known for their organization and cleanliness. They just, collect ephemera and trinkets and memorabilia and records and 8 tracks. I'm sure were in the mix there.
We moved two cart machines and about 40 carts, and yeah, there was probably onwards of 2,000 pieces of vinyl,
Wow.
and just as many CDs. And it's wild because we're using maybe 10% of what we moved, because we went with an all digital infrastructure. Uh,
Okay.
Everything's Axia, audio over IP, digital consoles, minimal
Okay.
wiring.
Right.
Uh, all these old consoles that we moved out, six radio stations, six radio consoles, and
Right.
hundreds of wires sticking out of the bottom.
Oh,
These new
yeah.
consoles these days, they have one wire coming into the bottom.
Wow.
And it's like plugging in a mouse or a keyboard. But it needed to be. It did need to be dumped. We'll find places to donate.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Well, so that's a modern radio station is really just it's all digitized. I mean, it's essentially over a one computer screen. How does it work?
I could take you for a tour in the rack room if you're into it.
Yeah, we'll take a look maybe after the show. What do you think? I don't know
Sure.
how.
Yeah. Yeah. So, essentially, if you've known how radio conventionally works in the last 40 years, from the microphone to the light bulb on the top of the tower, then you know that there's these infinite variety of types of boxes connected by very specific cabling. So this from here to here you need a BNC cable. From here to here you need an XLR cable. From here to here you need a piece of half-inch coax with in connectors. And we've all seen it slowly change, but with this new operation, it is now just one computer connected to another computer with an Ethernet cable, and then the next box is to the IP radio with an Ethernet cable, and then on the other side it's to the you have a MPX node that's decoding the composite audio out with an Ethernet cable into the transmitter, and it's just the type of stuff. It's just computers and Ethernet cables. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
And so how far can you broadcast? I mean, I guess it's only within the island itself, if you're on Maui or if you're on Pago Pago, how far does it go?
Well, that's the great thing I think about island radio is okay on the mainland. You just want to reach as far as you can, as loud as you can, or as strong as you can. And so
Right.
you need a really tall stick, or as tall as you can, and you want to put
Yeah.
as much power as you're allowed.
Yeah.
But if you go with that same mindset on an island, you're just reaching more fish.
Yeah.
So, so what you want to do is you want to find the tallest hill that you can. In this case, it's Haleakala, a gigantic dormant volcano in a national
Uh-huh.
park on Maui. It's
Okay.
right around 10,000 feet. Okay. And you go up there, and there's a nice man named Jim that's rented us some space in his transmitter facility, and then there's some of these stations that reach more or less island wide. They're 250-watt translators, man.
Wow. So that's pretty small.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that means that the things that you're working with, I think the heaviest coax we're working with is 7/8. So
Hmm.
no, and some of it's half inch, and that means that we're dealing with stuff that an idiot can work with, and that I think the biggest antenna I can remember seeing, because I'm not the engineer, I think we have a
Right.
2 bay. There might
Okay.
be a 3 bay somewhere. So
Yeah.
relatively simple. And by George, it needs to be, because the trade off is, even though we have smaller transmitters that cost less, we have smaller coax, we have more minimal gear, or more demure gear, right? Uh, uh, the electricity is incredibly expensive.
I
In
bet.
American Samoa, it's like 47 cents a kilowatt hour right now. That's like three times what you're paying, at least.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's nothing to to see a 500, 5,000, depends on what's going on,
Yeah.
dollar phone electricity bill. Whereas
Whoa.
if you were looking at the same thing, wherever you are, you'd be like, oh, there's no way I'd pay more than a couple $100 for that.
Tell us that the main island, I'm going to mispronounce it. So if you can just pronounce it for me, maybe there are 5 islands in American Samoa.
Yeah, there's an archipelago that stretches over a few hundred miles, and about half of them are the American Samoa territory. All right, the
Okay.
territory of American Samoa, and the main or biggest part of that is Tutuila,
Mm-hmm.
and
Tutuila.
yeah, and it has a small island called Aunuu that's like accessible by boat, like 5 minute boat ride.
Okay.
But then there's another group about 60 miles to the east called the Manua Group, and it has I don't know, maybe less than 1,000 people, but there's a significant population there, so they have to be served, and that's always a challenge, because that's 60 miles away, and unless
Wow.
somebody has a good antenna on their radio, we're not reaching them. So we've actually got a project underway to put a translator on this Manua group 60 miles away, outside of the 60 dBUs, city grade coverage. And we got a waiver from the commission to do that. We also got a waiver from the commission to put a translator, to get a translator license outside of a filing window, and a third waiver to boost the power from the maximum allowed 250 to 500 watts.
Okay.
And
And is it Afu Beach is out there?
Ofu,
Ofu.
yes,
Okay. I hear
the,
that's beautiful.
boy. So the first time I went to Ofu, and I'm walking this long beach. It's like a mile long. It's on near white sand, and I'm just strolling along. I'm having a good time, and I'm looking over at the water, and it's got to be a good 10 or 15 yards that I'm looking out into the water, and I can see the fish in the water from up on the beach. It's just
Wow.
so incredibly clear, like, and big fish too, like just
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, so like a living aquarium almost.
It's
Cool.
it's difficult to get to because the flights that go over there, and the ferry that goes over there, they just run so erratically, or the capacity is so limited. It's these little twin otter airplanes that
Mm,
hold, I don't know, 12, 16 people, something like
right,
that.
right,
And you always want to give priority to the people that actually live there,
right.
or
Yeah.
people that are going over there to
See
service
relatives.
over there, right?
Yeah.
So there is a tourism industry, and they pay a premium to get over there. But I say the premium's far less than going to someplace like Tahiti. But you
Right.
know, the difference is that there's not really a store. There is a store, but you have to go find the lady that runs the store, and get her to go unlock it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's yeah,
That's island life right there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, but that's what makes it good, and that's probably why it's so unspoiled, is because, you can't get there from here sort of thing. So, so I guess that's a good thing. But so tell me, like, what's the difference between American Samoa and Samoa, the country of Samoa?
Okay, so the other half of the archipelago that I'm telling you about has some more islands, and that'd be to the west.
Right.
And those were, I guess, under the authority of various countries over the years. British, there was German occupation, or rule at some point, and at some point they were granted their independence, and they're just a member of the British Commonwealth.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the two main islands of independent Samoa, sometimes formerly known as Western Samoa, uh,
Right.
uh, uh, they are big islands. Where the island I live on, Tutuila, I could drive from one end to the other. It's like 20 miles, and I could
Okay.
at a slow, like, I think the fastest speed limit is 25 miles an hour in one little stretch. It's mostly like
Right.
20, right, or less.
Yeah. Right.
I could drive from one end to the other in a couple hours.
Yeah.
Whereas Upolu, where my wife's from, the capital island of Western Samoa, you could take all day driving around it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
So
then
it's
and then there's an even bigger island called Savai, and yeah, you can. It's even more sparsely populated, but yeah, it's definitely an all day thing to drive around it. And it's an interesting thing too. When you start to looking at that, you start to see the Pacific Islander people, sometimes called Polynesians,
yes.
Melanesians,
Yeah.
Micronesians. Well, so the Polynesians, they have common ancestry, and you can see it in a variety of ways, especially the language and then the place names. So the biggest island in the Samoan group of islands is Savai. Here in Hawaii, where I am right now on Maui, next to me, there's a place they call the Big Island. Well, the Big Island is named Hawaii, right?
Right.
And
Gotcha.
if
Okay.
you go to Tahiti, the biggest place that is called Tahiti,
Yes.
Hawaii, Savai. These things,
Yeah.
they all have common words. The aloha is hello in Hawaiian. Talofa is hello in Samoan, and there's endless examples of this, and it's
Yeah.
so fun to see and make those connections.
Yeah, that's nice. I've been to the Cook Islands, so my wife and I have spent some time there. So I've never been to Hawaii, never been to American Samoa, but I have been to what's considered part of Polynesia, and I've taken those very small flights to some of the outer islands, and it's
Right, Tutaki.
yeah, yeah, Tutaki, Atui, rolls of toilet paper stashed in the center of the aisle, and the whole thing. So people stocking up, but and you mentioned language. I guess the common language is English, but most of the population also speaks the Samoan language as well.
Yes, and that's another thing that I think is pretty interesting about the place. Those so much of English is in all the schools, and English is um, everywhere, and pretty much everybody speaks it. There's been a concerted effort to make sure that our Samoan children continue to use the language. It's a very much an alive language.
Yeah, that's
It
good to
is
hear.
it's not in any danger of going extinct. In 1900, whenever the chiefs of Samoa decided to invite the U.S. To be it, so please come. This could be your base. We want to be a protectorate of the United States. And it was like they asked. And there was this document called the Deed of Cession that was signed. And there's some really interesting tidbits in there about, uh, uh, along with ceding this land to the United States as a territory, that the chiefly system would not be torn down as it
Okay.
was like in Hawaii, that the language would not be taken away, and that communal land would not be taken away.
Yes, yes.
And I don't know how all of this came to be, but I sure am glad that it did. I mean, it causes all kind of headaches, but
Yeah.
when you look at the things that so many people in Hawaii lament about how that transition from a kingdom to a United States state happened,
Right.
could that have happened better? Probably. Yeah.
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 I'm not trying to get political here.
Yeah.
That's explosive words. If you're trying to talk to somebody who's really knowledgeable, but as far as
Yeah.
Samoa goes, they got a pretty good deal. But it's interesting. In exchange for those terms, the United States had one term of its own, and that was that a certain chief called the Tui Manua. This was the highest chief, the highest title in all of Samoa. And according to legend, and I'm not an expert. This is me passing on legends that I've
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah.
That other peoples from Hawaii, from Tonga, from Fiji, Cook Islands, that whenever they needed to look at politics in a regional way, that they too acknowledged the Tui Manua as the highest chief, right? They said the United States says that when in this title, like my title, Paunga, will be passed on to one of my children or somebody in my
Wow.
family. So
Yeah.
the Tui Manua was passed on. There's a lineage.
Wow.
The United States said that when the Tui Manua dies, that the title dies with him.
Wow.
They didn't want. They foresaw that there could be issues with continuing to like. Okay, this is the United States. Now we have this cultural figurehead. They didn't want that competition, and
Yeah.
so to this day, there we know who the descendants of the Tui Manua are, and similar to the people that say free Hawaii, there's some people that say, yeah, we should bring the Tui Manua back, break the pact.
Wow. Wow. And my understanding is that it's only the only U.S. territory where they're non-citizen nationals.
Yeah, man. So if you're born there, you're a national and you're not a citizen. My children were born in American Samoa, and they were born as nationals. And in order, because I am a U.S. citizen, they're automatically qualified for citizenship. So what do? I didn't have to fly them up to Honolulu or the mainland or anything. We literally went to the United States Post Office, and we stood in front of the postmaster, and she swore them in as citizens. They had to fill
Wow.
out a whole bunch of paperwork and show some
Yeah.
birth certificates and all that. But it's like
Yeah.
that was the process for citizenship for my kids
Wow.
at
Well,
the
that's
post
great. I'm
office.
glad it was. Yeah.
Pick up my mail and get sworn in.
But it's not quite so simple for a lot of other native Samoans.
No,
Totally.
and that's a huge point of contention too. You
Yeah.
know, so the argument is okay. U.S. military has has Samoans serving, and Samoans make up the highest per capita,
Heard that.
for many other state or territory.
Wow.
And there are people serving and dying, and while they do get their pay and their benefits, they you know they people say that no, citizenship should automatically come with that. And there's all these hoops that they make you jump through in order to get it. For example, my wife, she's born in Samoa. She's not a United States citizen, and we're in a United States territory, but I can't get her citizenship unless we move to the mainland or Hawaii and we establish residency, get a green card, and go through that process there.
Wow.
In the mainland, or Hawaii, I can't. It really bugs me. So it's like you got to uproot everything in order to do this
Wow.
process.
I
Yeah,
mean, that sounds extreme.
and it's been that way for a very long time, and the problem is that if you grant citizenship to everybody that is, and this is as is explained to me. Again,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not a scholar, but
Yeah.
that if you're citizens now, then the entirety of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights now applies, and
I
this
see.
rubs against the deed of cession that has communal land and these
Communal
other
land.
things that don't
I
really
see.
jibe well with the rest of
I
the
see.
rights. Yeah, yeah.
And
So
so
it's
can you
like,
talk maybe a little bit more about the communal land? I understand that there's native land, there is individual land. How does that all work out?
yeah, three different types of land. A communal land is belongs to the village, and the chief
Right.
of that whatever part of an area is decides. He manages the people and that stay on it, and in extreme cases, he can make you move out. You don't live here anymore.
Wow.
But that's just kind of what it is. But it cannot be sold and bought by anybody else. Individually owned land is land that was not part of a village, but it can be bought and sold by people who are of at least 50% American Samoan blood,
Okay. Yeah.
right? And then there's this final class of land called freehold land. This is land that was owned independently before the deed of cession was signed in 1900, and it's like less
Wow.
than, like, I forget what it is, 2% of the land in American Samoa falls in this category, but it can be bought and sold by anyone, and
Okay.
it is precious.
I bet. I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
We talked about military enlistment, sending a lot of Samoans all across the world, really, and then also another is the NFL. There's a big contingent of American Samoans in the NFL. Can you talk about that?
We got three major exports in American Samoa: tuna fish, soldiers, and NFL players. Right? Uh, um, it's obvious that our Samoan people have above average strength and muscle density whenever they're in good training, right? So uh, sports are, it's a big part of the school experience, and student athletes, and the whole sports and schools thing. I'm not an athlete. I'm not an expert on anything to do with athletics. I'm a music guy, but I
Yeah.
can see it. I can see those coaches. I can see those students. I can see them take seriously the concept of knuckling down, get having the grades to go with the performance, and that it keeps them on the straight and narrow. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so as a result, when it comes to 12th grade and you got your graduation, and you got those, you know, there's six major high schools in American Samoa, and some of them have 200 or 300 graduates a year, right? There's
Small.
and you go to the high school graduation, and you got those rows of kids in their caps and gowns. In the first three rows are those kids that have the stoles in the honor society, and they've been accepted at such and such a college, right? That's the first three rows. What about the last 15 rows? What's up? What's left for them? Well, they're either going to go to the NFL and join the military, or they're going to go work the family land or go process tuna at the tuna factory, right? So yes, playing football definitely does represent a good opportunity for people to go on and get that education off island. And for every Marcus Mariota or Junior Seau or big Troy Polamalu that you hear about, there's 99 others that went
Yeah.
on to play at a college and got a decent education and
Right.
were able to make a life out of that opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. And did many stay in the United States, or in the mainland? I hear there's large population in Utah.
Yeah, yes. Utah is huge. Obviously, the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter Day Saints that uh, have a heavy presence in the Samoan Islands, and
Oh
so
wow.
yeah, so you got a lot of Samoans that grew up as Mormon, and
Right.
so they're gravitating around there. There's also big Sam. There are more Samoans outside of Samoa than in Samoa, and where they are, they're in like Long Beach region, L.A.
Yep.
They're in Seattle, Tacoma. They're in
Hmm.
Anchorage. There's a whole pot of them in New Zealand, like huge, probably just as many Samoans in New Zealand itself than any place else,
Wow.
and Australia. Mhm.
Wow. I
and
always
and any
wondered.
place where there's river gambling. Apparently, I've never known this to be true, but they get these opportunities where there are casinos. Tunica, Mississippi, apparently has a pretty
It
banging
does.
community of Samoans.
Really?
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
work in kitchens.
I know, but Biloxi, Tunica, are known for its, nightlife and gambling, but not Samoa. So that's really surprising to me.
Oh, they're small, but
Yeah,
they're
yeah, they're
there.
there. One other thing I wanted to talk about was cyclones. I hear that's a big concern on the island. Can you talk about
Yeah,
that?
it's cyclone season, November to May. It's a hurricane by a different name. And it's
Yeah,
been the other way around, just like when you flush the toilet. Yeah, yeah,
there you go.
yeah. We just had a couple of near misses about 2 weeks ago,
Oh wow.
and there's this South Pacific convergence zone. It's where these different weather systems tend to meet, and
Hmm.
it's pretty close to the Samoan Islands, and they meet, and sometimes they spark off something interesting. Uh,
Oof,
Thankfully, we haven't had anything major since 2018, and
that's good to
I'm
hear.
praying for another uneventful year. We
Yeah,
had just heavy storms for about a week, 2 weeks ago, and they were dumping 5 inches of rain a day for a few days there, and it's like,
wow.
it doesn't matter how long you live there. When something's dumping 5 inches of rain on you a day, you're like paying attention.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's Noah's Ark level flooding right there.
yeah.
5 inches a day, every
It,
day.
it's
Wow.
like the metaphor that or the imagery that I often use is at a certain point the water stops coming down and it looks like the air is bubbling up.
Yeah, right.
It'll
Well,
make you enjoy the sunny days.
yeah, that's for sure. Well, man, it sounds like a place I'd love to be. And anything we haven't talked about, anything you want to mention? Um,
Yeah. Um, you know, just because you've asked so much about American Samoa, it it can it can be interesting for somebody to want to come and check out. And as soon as you start getting into the nitty gritty, you start realizing that it's kind of hard to get there and it's expensive. Um, if you're coming from the US, you're going to go to Hawaii first because
yeah.
the only major airline to serve American Samoa is Hawaiian Airlines from Honolulu. And for the longest time, it was two flights a week. It's a Monday and a
Well,
Thursday flight. We just got a Tuesday flight, so it's three flights
nice.
a week.
All right.
Hey,
Moving on up.
50% increase, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of pricey. The
Yeah.
only other way to get there is if you go to like Fiji or New Zealand and you fly to Independent Samoa, and then you take this little Twin Otter
Yeah.
16 seater for about an hour ride, and then you do it that way. But don't let that be the thing that stops you from doing it. I mean, money is money, but if that's not the deciding thing, you'll find in American Samoa all of the things that will make you feel not nervous. If they want to go to Egypt, well, you know, there are things to worry about in Egypt. There's things you want to
Yeah.
go see in Egypt, but you don't
Yeah.
have to worry about, culture shock. These people we're very American, speak English, we spend US dollars. Uh, the charger on your phone, it looks the
That's
same.
important.
It looks the same,
Yeah.
the president's still the president, whether you like him or not.
Yep.
And your ATM card works. There's a McDonald's whenever you're tired of having food adventures. There's some nice hotels, and there are wonderful people in a national park that is waiting to receive you,
All
and
right.
that it is so small that if you are listening to me now, if you decide you want to come and you talk to anybody in American Samoa, you can ask for Joey, and I will come and find you, and I will make sure that you have a good time. And
All
if
right.
I'm not available, then one of our other friends, and it's not that I'm particularly well known. Everybody knows everybody. So you
Yeah.
could ask, you could also ask for John. You could ask for Sia. You could ask for Monica. You could ask for, there are lots of people and everybody knows one another. And there
Yeah.
are no homeless people. There's only a few of the cops that actually carry guns. There are no snakes. This is a safe place. It's a good place for kids.
Yeah.
And we invite you to come and see us. And
That's great.
anything that make make you scared of visiting there is only the fault of me and my failings to convey the
I know.
beauty of this place, right? And it is ready to receive.
I'm ready. I'm ready to cash my check and buy some tickets, man. You're a good spokesman for the island. And how can people tune in to South Sea Broadcasting?
It's right there on the website. You just go to southseasbroadcasting.com,
There you
and
go.
at the bottom there's a little player, and you select which station you want, and it will you can pick which one you
I
want to listen
did. I
to.
sure
And
did.
it's 24/7 live streaming worldwide. Or if you want to download the app, it's South Seas Broadcasting on the iTunes Store.
Awesome. And V103 was my favorite channel, something that you don't really get here on the mainland. So I really like that. And and your website is terrific. It's very easy to check out all the stations with a click away. So pretty
Yep.
impressive operation. So, well, Joey, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thanks for being a guest on All Across America.
Mark, I hope as you go across America that you send the Samoan alofa. That's our love. And please tell the rest of your friends that we said hello.